Okay, brothers and sisters, ladies and gentlemen, assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah. Good evening. I'll try and keep this very short. I'm actually going to talk more about what the Muslim Association of Britain sees as its vision in terms of how Muslims should deal with pro-Brexit. And whilst it is one of those things that is going to affect everyone, and I think Talha is rightly saying that Muslims shouldn't just be focusing on Muslims and Islam, and we obviously need to always widen the remit as much as possible, but at the same time we have a duty to at least direct or at least participate in how Muslims should behave. I mean, we can probably say that from a religious perspective, and that's something that MAB continuously talks about, because we believe that the person's religion is actually a force for good in society. The more that a Muslim practices Islam is actually better for society, unlike what we are led to believe by the media and some of the nasty politicians, that religion is actually negative for society. The more religion you have, the more terrorism you have, and that's a completely discredited kind of theory. The reality is, and a lot has been said about this, is that more Muslims practice their religion, the better they have contribution to society. And we're not just talking about better in terms of their their salah, their prayer, or their fasting, but actual real changes. And I'm not going to talk about that today because that's a whole different topic in itself. But what I'm going to talk about is what we see as an important call of action, as Khalil alluded to slightly. And I think it focuses on some important things. The Muslim community is very much part of society. It is doing so much. There's so much things happening, so much contributions. I mean, Muslims are not just like, again, some people lead us to believe that they're just people who are, hiding away in their mosques and in their prayers and not engaging with society. It's quite the opposite. We Muslims are there, but we need more visibility. It needs to be, and unfortunately, it's something that Muslims probably don't do well, because especially when we're talking about sincerity and don't boast your achievements, and you should. That it actually goes against what we are trying to say, which is you actually need to speak more about your achievements. Say what you are doing, because that actually will contradict the negative narrative against Muslims and their participants. So we need more activities, but not only about that, we need to be seen more, and actually, in a way, we need to market more as well. Muslims are part of society in every sphere. I think we don't really need to actually prove anything in that regard. It's already well proven. Muslims are participating in all aspects of society, in every profession, in every sphere. The MCB produced a nice report, I think, a couple of years ago called the Muslim Pound, showing how actually Muslims and Muslim businessmen participate in the economy of Britain. About 10,000 millionaires, Muslim millionaires, so much, but lots of things there. And I think if you have not seen that, mashallah, are you one of those? So I think it's about that contribution, and I think again it needs to be shown and needs to be celebrated. And inshallah, MAB is organising a convention on the 15th of October, which is really directed at that specific thing, which is best of British Muslims. Celebrating our achievements in society and being proud of the contribution that we do. Again, we want to really advocate the whole concept of transparency. And transparency means that Muslims are ready to share what they achieve. We've had the mosques open days, which have been really great success throughout the UK. But it's not just about transparency in the mosque. We're also saying that Muslims should try to be more transparent within their homes. Invite people inside your homes, let them see who you are. Because it's about that personal touch, and sharing the moments of happiness, the times of sadness. I think that's also important as well. Part of our, what we're advocating as well is that as Muslims, we also need to not only feel gratitude of being part of this society and what society has offered us, but we need to be teaching them to be. A lot of the youth that are probably going down the slippery slope of violent extremism probably don't feel that gratitude to the society. They feel that society hates us, it marginalizes us, and I think we need to really, Islam teaches us that, teaches us to be grateful, teaches us to recognize when somebody does good to you, and it's not, David Cameron that's being good to you, it's not the conservatives who are being good, the country, it's the whole country, the social system, the social security, the NHS, the education. I mean, I come from a generation where my education was paid for by the government. I know a lot of the youth now, probably all the young, they have to pay for their education, but still, it's something to be grateful for. That's the hadith of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. I'm just going to rush through this again. Obviously, through times like this, finance is very important. Again, it's very important that Muslims, are caring about how they spend their money, saving money, also investing. But without doubt, doesn't mean that goes against charity. In fact, we need more charitable work. We need more contributions in society. We need more volunteering, and that's happening already, being done by the Muslims. We saw when there was the floods in the UK, how, and this video, if you have not seen it, it's quite a nice video. You see this English man from the north of England, and actually coming out and saying, if it wasn't for the Muslim brothers who were the first people to come and help us, it was quite, the way he said it was just like very, very natural and transparent. And that's right, and there is that participation. Muslims are, they're looking after the homeless, they are taking care of, there's food banks, there's lots of participation in that way. And Alhamdulillah, one of the things, again, which we don't celebrate, in Ramadan, there was over £10 million just in 1 month that was donated by Muslims, which is a massive contribution that shows that Muslims are ready to give, and they are people of charitable cause, if you like. I'm just moving on quickly. Again, investment. I think that's so important. Most of this is in your brochure. But also, we encourage. It's important about engaging as well. Today we have MPs who, unfortunately, they represent their parties more than they represent the people, their constituents. And the reason why they do that is because the constituents, they don't hold their MPs to account. The constituents need to be more pressurizing the MPs. That's how it should work. And maybe some people might argue that that's a flaw in the democracy that we have today, is that the MPs speak for the parties rather than the constituent. The proper representative democracy is that the MPs represent the constituents. And that can only happen when everybody participates in public life, engaging in different spheres, speaking out, using the different avenues that you have as well. Here, I think it's very important also to say that, just go back on that, that it's very important that we don't talk about countries as being erased. And I think there's a very important lesson, even in our Islamic traditions, about that people change. Things change, times change. Even the story of the people of the cave, which is very important and relevant about this, is that the people of the cave, they went away for the cave, and they ran away fearing their religion, but Allah showed them that, after 300 years, whole society had changed. That oppressive regime that was there, and it changed totally. But you can either be part of that change, or if you don't be part of the change, then change will happen, and you'll just be put aside. So let us engage in change, inshallah. We see the York Mosque example of how they engaged with the time is finished. How they engaged with the people, the EDL who were protesting against them, and that changed. So my final message really is that we need to increase our relationships. We need to increase dialogue, and we need to be more proactive, engage with the media, make sure that we participate in the different ways. Let's be positive about it. You know, we're not going to achieve much by just being negative and oh, this is going to look bad. It's rather there's a lot of challenges out there, but I would say that there's much more opportunities out there. And the Muslims, if they want to really affect society today, they have to be positive, they have to engage, and inshallah, end of the day, the results are with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Thank you.